work today and really the last 2 days. So we've had 3 really focused days, maybe as focused as we've had. I don't know if that equals out to anything. There's no guarantees in anything you do. We've talked to our kids about being prepared mentally and physically, and we've got the physical work in, and there's still a couple more days of really getting the mental work in. So we're ready to go. Questions?
When they run Newman, the quarterback, is it similar to what Duke was doing with Jones at all as far as quarterback?
They've got some of those. I mean, there's similarities, and if they didn't, they may. So they run some of the power read stuff. They'll have quarterback runs for sure.
Sean said yesterday that almost every game people do things different to you. How difficult is that to adjust on the fly like that?
It's the same thing. It's offensively and defensively. You practice what you see on tape. That's all you can practice. But there's always different stuff on every side of the ball, and special teams as well. You prepare for a certain look that you're going to block coming down on a kickoff return. So that's football. We do some different things that people don't adjust for either. So there's a little bit of that on both sides of the ball, and you have enough in. If they do this, what are we going to do? So you always kind of, what if they did that? What if we do this? So there's always that extra stuff you have in case. And if not, then you go back to your bank and pull something out in the second half that our kids can execute. And it's always like, hey guys, you remember this. Even Randy Bates on defense, called a blitz last week down on the 10-yard line that we hadn't practiced that week. The kids executed and it worked. And I was like, what? We don't have that in. I was like, there it was. But the kids remembered, and so you go back to really what you do well.
You were kind of talking about backup plans there, Pat. Obviously Quadri and Darren, both had phenomenal seasons. It seems like that there hasn't been a game really where at least one of them hasn't played very well. But if you guys run into a situation where a team's able to kind of neutralize them and maybe stacks the box to prevent the run, how confident are you that you guys could win a game primarily behind y'all's passing game?
Yeah, Craig, we'll find out. It depends on how much they pack the box. We've seen people pack the box and we still been able to run it, but with what Wake did last week to North Carolina State, that's your fear. But with Tayseer being back healthy, I think Kenny and those receivers, I think their timing is better than really I've seen it at this point. I think we're kind of going like this in that category. If we can keep hitting a couple of those, they got to be afraid of the speed out there too, because I think we got some guys that are coming on. So we'll see. Raphael is another guy, and we've got some weapons out there. If you pack it that much, so we're gonna have to hit some shots, and once you hit a couple shots, and we become two-dimensional. So how confident? I'm pretty confident. If they stopped it and we couldn't do it, that we're gonna, we got to be able to make plays out there.
With how efficient he was Saturday, do you think that was maybe Kenny's best game either of this season or maybe of his pretty young career?
It's hard to say. I can't say Kenny's had a bad game. He hasn't had a bad game. He's making good decisions in the run game, pass game, and as long as you're not throwing to the other guys, there's nothing wrong with a punt either. Punts are good. Interceptions and turnovers are bad. And making good decisions is part of being a great decision maker at that quarterback spot.
Pat, if teams have tried to load up in the box, as you say, have you been able to make that work against them? Because it seems like both Darren and Quad, especially last game, as soon as they got through the line of scrimmage, there was nobody.
That's when you load up like that, that's you better be right, and you better make sure you got somebody to help make that play if he gets through. And again, the other thing is if they load up, we can load up. If they stick everybody in the box and stop it, well, we don't have. We're not going to line up in 4 receivers when they're loading the box up. They load up, we can put everybody in the box and get into a boxing match too. So we're prepared to do that as well.
How are you able to? Receivers have maybe you talked about this earlier in the week, but I apologize for not being there. But receivers have the reputations of being divas now, right? And how are you able to get your guys to buy in on the downfield block?
That's a good point. They are a lot of divas. We got tough guys. It's Pittsburgh. I say that time and time again, but we've developed those guys into blocking's important in big plays. I think after they watch those guys go, and you start seeing it being done, and you know how important that role is as well. If you want to play in the NFL, you have to block somebody. They block in the NFL too. I know they get a paycheck to be a diva, but you better block in the NFL too. I don't think Coach Tom was real happy with the receivers don't block for those guys, for James.
Was Virginia Tech one of those games that you look back and you sort of regret the usage of the league? Because I know you're always sort of cognizant of the redshirt role, and he didn't play a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
How are you guys approaching that?
Yeah, we didn't do a great job. Glad you pointed that out. I talked to Malik earlier in the week and just said we messed that up. But I'm not worried about even redshirting at this point. I mean, we're going to play him if he's capable. We'll see what it looks like Saturday with the. It's one of those new rules, and you kind of think you're going to be okay. And we made a mistake of playing him on special teams. So, in our last meeting today, now one of my last things is to talk about all those guys. How many games have they played? Who's going to play? Why are we going to play them? We're not going to play them on special teams. We're using them for offense or defense first. And if they're playing on offense or defense, then let's blend them into special teams. But they don't play on special teams until we use them for why we brought them out. And that'll be a new rule that we kind of did a bad job. We knew that Virginia Tech may have taken the sweeps away a little bit, and Wake may do too. And if that's the case, then we'd like to save them. So we'll kind of play it by ear. But if he can help us win, and he's got to play in 5 games or 6 games, then we're playing to win. We're not playing to lose. So I'm not worried about redshirt. I think when you think about redshirting, coaching as long as I have, you always see those where are you going to use a redshirt year? Who knows what happens in spring ball, first game of the season? Guys get hurt, guys are out. I always say, the good man upstairs will tell you when you're going to play, when you're not. When you have an opportunity to play. And if because I've had guys that started as freshmen, started second year, third year, fourth year, and I remember this one guy in particular from Staten Island, New York. 13th play of his senior year, he breaks his leg. I mean, flat, broken leg, not a twisted ankle. Broke his leg. Well, he redshirted that year. Who would have thought? And then he came back and started his 5th year and played 5 years. So there's so many different things that you've seen through the years that when it's time to play, you go play. And I think that's the main thing we have to look at. If he can help us win, then we're going to play. And if he has another one of those games, how do you not play him?
You can still even get some mileage out of that game that he had, right? I think one of the snaps that he played against Virginia Tech, I think you got a big play because they kind of
decoyed it,
what he was doing.
Yeah, but we'd like to be more than a decoy on to carry the ball.
Pat, you've talked about being 1-0 every week and not really focusing on the standings or any of the other variables involved. But now that everybody knows what's at stake here on Saturday, have you seen anything different from your players, and how have you tried to guard against anything to changing or altering the approach, knowing what's on the line?
Yeah, not really. I mean, I haven't seen our kids at all. In fact, I had a meeting with our Eagles today, our leadership council. I said, so how's everything going? How's everything on campus? And they're like, thinking that maybe, they're talking out there on campus and they're talking about, hey, congratulations, patting you on the back. And they said something about someone's watching some girl sleep or something. So there's some guys sleeping around. I don't know if you guys heard any of that. I was like, some of the guys like Books are watching the news. I'm like, Books, you watching the news? I didn't know Books are watching the news, but there's something going on campus. They didn't say a word of. I thought I was talking about the hoopla. Are we okay? Are we, are we grounded? And they were talking about something else that they watched on the news. So, no, I think they are grounded. We haven't had a different approach. It's the same approach, and I think they need to understand how it's been done. And I think maybe players are superstitious too as coaches. We haven't talked about it to this point. Let's not talk about it now. I think it's like hush hush, like no one says a word, and it's a good thing. And they've been focused in practice, and that's all matters.
Is that one of those things where maybe the naivety of the youth that they don't maybe realize how tough it is to get there as maybe as you do, and do you put more pressure on yourself than maybe they're putting on themselves?
No, I don't think there's any pressure on the kids. We don't put any pressure on our, it's another week. If coaches started to approach these things in different ways, kids are really, really perceptive. They figure it out real quick that, oh, shoot, coach is tight this week. There's no difference. We're going to go out and have fun on Saturday at noon, and we're going to play loose, or we're going to play like we play, like Pitt football. That's what we're going to do. It ain't going to be any different.
With the way your O-line is playing and the deal you've made with them, does Chris Sal have to book that Miami hotel penthouse a week in advance just in case?
Well, we aren't looking at that either. We're looking to see if we can get just a W in the win column, and we're not worried about that.
Pat, you guys and the Steelers both had really similar blowout wins at Heinz Field last week, and Tomlin's message after was kind of, you'd like to think you're that good, but you know you're probably not. Did you have a similar message to your team?
No, didn't have to talk about that. Didn't need to talk about that. I think our guys know who they are and what they are, and you better stay grounded. And we didn't have to say it. I think they know it. I mean, as you watch the tape and you go, "What are you doing here?" We could. There's so many things we could fix. So you're never as good as you think you are. Period. And I didn't read that. I didn't even know he said that. So.
whether you put those guys up in a nice suite or not, you're about to spend a lot of time on the road or away from home, I guess. Just what's the approach you take to like these road trips in terms of putting guys in rooms with their teammates and maybe guys they're next to on the line and stuff like
We've
that?
never done that. We don't plan on doing it. It's never happened before.
I just mean like even when they room together, two guys to.
Oh, what's our thoughts
Yeah,
there?
yeah. Like how do you guys do that? We were talking to some of the guys. I think like DeMar was saying he rooms with Felipe and Briggs rooms with Mathis. Like, is it always is there a method to that basically?
There's always a method. I mean, there's a ton of methods. It's it's sleeping habits. It's does Chris snore and he doesn't. Well, hey, he's probably not going to play a lot, so let's get the snore with the guys. Don't put a starter with a snore. That's where it starts. Can you sleep with that guy? We had one of those moves today. So it's snoring, but putting DeMar in a field corner together, they do a lot of communicate. So hey, what if we get this? You're going to call this? I mean, just so they can talk checks. So there's stuff like that. We're going to put guys, put quarterbacks together so they can talk the same language. I mean, we're not in the summer we put guys together just to get to know the other side of the ball, but it's defense with defense, offense with offense, and then okay, who can help out who? If you got a young linebacker, let's put him with someone really smart that can help him. And then there's the other, you bring a young guy together, never traveled before, and if he's late for a meeting and the head coach is going to go berserk, you put him with somebody you trust is going to make sure he follows him around, just so we don't have that issue. So there's many different reasons for who rooms with who, based on what you're worried about. Try to cover all the bases.
Pat, speaking of snoring, I think you caught some teams sleeping in the years past. How much did being the spoiler maybe have this team prepared for anything? And maybe that if there's a team that's not going to get caught sleeping or not getting caught looking ahead, it's you guys because of the teams that you've beaten that had conference championships on the line and things like that.
Right.
That you've played that role, so you know better.
Yeah, some of these guys, we kind of think one game at a time and never looking back and saying, hey, we were the spoiler, we spoiled somebody else. Because when you start to think that, hey, we won't get spoiled, it's when you get spoiled. I think anybody can beat anybody on any given day. I don't try to look back what happened. Jerry's right there. We're usually over here. I mean, Jerry likes to look at those things, and now you're looking at those things. We're just worried about Wake Forest and what they do this Saturday and really focus on what we do. It's a discipline, the communication, and the details that we have this weekend that's going to help us win a game. It's not going to be that we were hunted in the past or not hunted or we were the spoilers. It doesn't really matter to us.
Pat, I'm kind of curious on how a coach acquires his football identity. I mean, you're known as a run the ball, talk the right kind of guy. Where did that come from? How far back did it go? And why didn't you become a run and shoot guy when you became a coach?
I don't know. I guess it starts, as probably as a graduate assistant coach and listening to Randy Walker. I think is where he was a smash mouth. He was an old running back in the day and liked to run the football and being around Kevin Wilson, who was the offense coordinator at the time. And maybe it was growing up and watching Marshall Broomfield carry the ball and Robbie Robson from down in West Virginia. Who knows? Running the football, is awful important. And Dwight Dumas, a big old fullback, number 49. And maybe it's all those guys that you watch run the football and have a chance to win football games.
They were West Virginia guys?
Robbie Robson was right down the road. I don't know where he's from.
You were a West Virginia fan?
No.
How much do you feel like this team has taken on an identity? That it's kind of like when you line up against Pitt, now you know what you're going to get. You may have some tricks up your sleeve, but there's no disguising what we do. This is how we're going to play, and you're going to have to stop us. I mean,
we're going to throw it this weekend. Yeah, we're going to throw it. I mean, your identity is based on what you do this weekend, and not what you've done in the past. We don't look for an identity. We got to do whatever it takes to win a football game. If it takes us throwing it 50 times, we'll throw it 50 times if they're going to pack the box. It'll all be dictated off that. But I think our kids have an identity. I mean, I think that old line wants to run the football. If I sat in a room with 5 receivers, 5 old linemen, and 2 tailbacks and a quarterback, quarterbacks wouldn't care. The running backs really wouldn't care. The old line would say, "Coach, let's run it." The receivers would say, "Coach, let's slow." So what is the identity? The identity we want around the country is to win football games and that we win, and that's what the identity needs to be, not how we do it. It doesn't matter.
if the identity is what you did last week, and you're pretty good with that.
I'm really good with that. I like the identity. That's my identity. But what's our team identity, I think, was the question. And and we want to run the football, we better be able to stop the run. And Wake Forest is one of those teams that, you know, you look at them and you could get fooled by them liking to throw the football. It's all run, you know. It's all run and throw, and it's, you know, RPOs, and they're going to hit us on some slants. But when it comes down to it, you know, if they're handing the ball off to their tailbacks and gaining yards rushing, then we've got an issue. We need to stop the run, and we need to keep it, you know, at about 3 yards per carry average, or we're going to be in trouble.
You know, there's been some talk this week, Pat, about how ACC coaches would fare if they would be placed in like a steel cage match or some kind of a Royal Rumble.
Are you serious?
How do you
Craig,
think
you
you
can
would
ask me
be-
this question?
Because it's it's the very end. I figured it's more like
Let me have a drink of water. In a live in where? Are we a bunch of animals now?
No. In like a wrestling match or a big brawl. Like, how do you think that you would fare in that, and who would you pick?
They had you as the
Well,
2 seed. Golick had you as the 2
you.
seed.
Wow. I heard it all now. Where would I, you know? I don't think anybody would want to get in the cage. That's all I got to say. I don't know who would be in there with me.
We'll say
Just
like
bring them
a
on.
fight, like a brawl.
I'll take on any of you guys in here if you guys want some.
Not us, but like among ACC coaches.
How would I want to go fight the ACC coaches?
This is all
There's some other people I might want to fight, but not.
I mean, we're not talking about Jerry right now.
Is there another ACC coach you'd want to avoid in that situation?
ACC coach. Dino Babers is pretty thick. You know, you got to worry about him. Fuente, he looks like he, you know, trying to think of who else.
About Dazio.
Dazio.
Tough guy.
They had him as the 1.
Dazio. They had him as a 1 seed.
You were the 2. Babers the 3.
Let me try to think here. You know, Fedora, I mean, he gets in the weight room a little bit. Now, I think that guy lifts a lot. I think he's in the weight room a lot, you know, a lot. I'm trying to think, we're going around Mark Rick now. You guys make me think we're wasting a lot of time here. That's about all I got to say. I mean, let me know if that happens.
Pat,
Let me know when I'm up.
Pay-per-view.
Pat, where do you think Quadri and Darren rank among the best running back tandems you've ever coached?
Tandem. 2 guys. Tell you what, it would rank up there probably in Northern Illinois when we had Thomas Hammock, who was the #1 guy at the tailback spot until he had a heart condition. Then his backup came in and rushed really. I mean, there were 2 really good tailbacks, and then Michael Turner, the burner. But Hammock was the starter. Turner was his backup. Turner wasn't really, I shouldn't say anything. They rushed the ball a lot together. I don't know what their yards were, but those were 2 of the best backs I'd been around. And matter of fact, Hammock rushed for probably 150 yards before, the next Monday after, I think it was the opener, that he couldn't run anymore. Now he's the running back coach for the Ravens. So, Thomas Hammock, Michael Turner, probably those are 2 big backs.
Okay. Coach,
Okay,
thank you very
good.
much.
All right.
Guys,
Great.